We now have some basic information about the upcoming infrastructure bill, and we also have a bit about what the Republican Party is going to say and do as we get closer to that process. We have some statements from Mitch McConnell, the Senate Minority Leader, never get sick of saying that. He says we have some big philosophical differences, and that's gonna make it more and more difficult for us to reach bipartisan agreements, something that he always works so hard for. I'm going to fight them every step of the way because I think this is the wrong prescription for America. And earlier this week, he said it's like a Trojan horse, the infrastructure bill. It's called infrastructure, but inside the Trojan horse, it's going to be more borrowed money and massive tax increases on all the productive parts of the economy. Oh, I love him throwing around the term productive parts of the economy. Because of course the taxes are going to be on some corporations and the highest income individuals. So he is gonna leap to their defense. He is going to try to imply that this around $2.2 trillion infrastructure bill has nothing good in it. It is just tax increases. What do you think about the battle that's coming? Adrienne, what are your thoughts?
I think that the battle will largely be split along party lines and extremely unproductive, if you want to talk about unproductive. It's unfortunate because you have the GOP largely standing for corporations and preventing that additional taxation that would help us continue to build our country up and to use those resources. But unfortunately, because they're protecting that wonderful kind of wage income gap and any kind of class division there, I don't think that it's going to be in any way a productive exchange.
Yeah, the only issue that Moscow Mitch has with this is the fact that it rolls back the 2017 GOP taxation rule for the wealthy corporations and 1%. That's the philosophical difference. This is a good bill. This is, to me, the bill doesn't go far enough, but it has some good things in the bill. And we keep calling it an infrastructure bill, and it has some traditional infrastructure elements. 165 billion for roads, 621 billion for roads, 165 billion for public transportation. That's normal stuff. But then it has things like expanding Medicare for childcare providers. It goes on to address climate issues. So it has a lot in here. And the reason why it must have a lot in it is because you only get a few bites at the political apple when you have this filibuster US Senate, right? And so they have to cram things in these massive bills. Biden has to push it hard. You're gonna have to get it passed through reconciliation. And hopefully you can keep all of the Democrats in tow and make this happen. But you can't compromise with folks that literally don't give a damn about the other side of this conversation. So trying to get them on your team and on your side to negotiate this bill is a waste of time. And I hope Joe Biden has learned that his few days at the White House.
Yeah, and look, we'll see how the process goes and how many Republicans even pretend like they might get involved in the process. But we're not purely hypothesizing. Not a single Republican supported the COVID aid bill in the midst of a terrible pandemic. So we have some evidence from which to determine the likelihood that there will be bipartisanship. But that said, there is a split between Democrats. So you have people like Joe Biden saying, I'm going to bring Republicans into the Oval Office, listen to them, what they have to say, and be open to other ideas, like doing nothing. We'll have a good faith negotiation with any Republican who wants to help get this done, but we have to get it done. So he does stress getting it done. Pramila Jayapal, representative, says, let's not water down a bill for a party that's not actually interested in bipartisanship or wait for Republicans to have some awakening on climate change. Let's move with the urgency and boldness that this moment calls for. Let's go even bigger. This package can and should be substantially larger while investing in green infrastructure, renewable energy, and more. It's what we need in this moment. And I sort of feel like it's so unlikely that many Republicans will get on board. Maybe none of them will, but I know inevitably they're going to claim that they're going to want some of the credit for it. I saw a tweet from Madison Cawthorn talking about some of the funds that were going to different health clinics in his district from the COVID aid bill that he voted against. Seems a little bit dishonest, but this is gonna be even bigger. Like, so much money is gonna go to so many different areas. These bridges are not all in Dem districts, the roads aren't. The rural broadband probably mostly isn't. That's gonna be going to red areas of the country, and it's almost certainly not gonna get any support from Republicans.
No, it's not. And kind of to piggyback on what Rashad said, it's the Republicans are really objecting to raising that corporate tax rate to 28% because, hey, Trump got it down to 21 from 35 back in 2017. And, Trump had really pushed the thought that these corporate tax cuts would increase the average household income by some $4,000. That's not true. There was a 2019 study by the International Monetary Fund where they looked at who was benefiting most from these corporate tax cuts, and they looked at Fortune 500 companies. They found that a whopping 80% of any kind of increased cash flow from these cuts in 2018 just went back into investor pockets. They did buybacks, dividends, asset planning adjustments. And since the majority of what these corporate stocks, they're just held by the wealthy and foreign investors, this windfall business is really about funneling more money to the wealthy, and that's not something the GOP is willing to let go of, and thus it will allow everyone to suffer by going against this bill.
And this is what pisses me off about Democrats. What Adrienne just said, Democrats have no true messaging around it. The majority of Americans who hear this, they will say, I don't like that. If you look at item for item that Democrats support, a large majority of the American population supports it. But Democrats have failed on the messaging angle of any of this. They can't get on the same page. And then when they do get on the same page, they don't message repeatedly. It becomes fragmented and disjointed. And this is where I blame leadership in the Democratic Party for failing to properly message. Republicans have mastered this. That's why they can tell a lie and keep telling that lie, and over again, people start believing the lie. Messaging is real simple. It's repetition. That's all it is. When you repeat a message, it becomes a brand. Brands are almost, you can't defeat a brand. You can defeat a message, but you can't defeat a brand. A brand is strong. And that's what the Republican Party has been able to do with their base. Democrats have failed to do so. And they have not only their base, but they also have independents and moderates who are willing to listen to a common sense message like that.
So Rashad, are you implying that Build Back Better isn't a rock solid brand identity?
Man, it's lame as hell.
I mean, this would be the time for it with infrastructure.
No, it doesn't move anything.
Yeah, no. I'm gonna keep an eye on his approval rating on different topics. He's still in that honeymoon period. With that said, he's doing well on most issues. Obviously not the border for some reason. I can't imagine why. But we'll see. The COVID aid bill was very popular despite Republican efforts for months to demonize around it. So we'll see. Now, in terms of what you could message around, like we said, I believe probably most people who might appear on this show would be in favor of massively expanding the size of this, and fingers crossed, maybe that'll happen. But even in the $2 trillion bill, it would rebuild 20,000 miles of rebuilt roads, repair 10 of the most economically important bridges, eliminate lead pipes and service lines from the nation's water supplies, which feels like that by itself deserves quite a bit more coverage than it's received so far, considering how many years activists have been pushing for that to be a goal. It's intended to do it. Shift to cleaner energy sources, modernize the electric grid, create millions of jobs, create 500,000 electric charging stations, resubsidize electric vehicles. We could just throw out a bunch of stuff like that. And that's at it being $2 trillion over a decade, 1% of GDP, far smaller than other big scale infrastructure bills in America's past.
That's right.
So that's what we have so far. I am curious, do you think there is a chance that once the House and the Senate get a hold of this, that it comes out of this process bigger than it's going in?
If it does come out of the process bigger, it's because the Republicans are gonna want certain things in it. And for some reason, we're gonna be in a position where we need to give it to them.
And will that earn any Republican votes, you think?
Possibly, I don't know.
I don't think it'll earn enough. I don't see this bill passing without just a simple majority. You got to go ahead and go through the process, file it under budget reconciliation to get your simple majority. And I even think then you're going to have a tough time getting a simple majority on this bill because of the conservatives that act like Democrats we have in the US Senate.
Exactly.
Yeah. I just hope the parliamentarian is in a good mood when this bill goes forward, because the future of America's infrastructure might come down to their recommendation, which we will treat as if it is like an adamantium promise. Anyway.
Wasn't that wild, man? Like all of a sudden, like everything was based on the parliamentarian, who, by the way, is not a constitutional position. It's not even a statutory position. It's once again, it's an office rule, and the person serves as someone who makes recommendations, not even as a director or executive at any level. And then Democrats are like, oh, I can't do anything. The parliamentarian said so.
Yeah, well, it's useful for some people. Excuses are useful, especially when someone with a title provides it.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.